I thought I needed 6 figures to hire a team, but turns out all I needed was a better mindset and $100 to get started. I want to talk about my journey today, the past, the present, the future, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, about how I've been going at it alone as a solo entrepreneur for years, my entire career pretty much. And I thought that one, I wasn't there ready to hire a team. I needed a lot of money to hire a team. What was the point of hiring a team? I went through a lot of different chapters of resisting the idea of hiring a team. And I want to talk about that story and how you, in your current mode, you working your regular self-employed job, making $20, $30, $40 an hour, how you today can hire a team for your business so that you can make more money and save more time and spend more time with your family. All right, cool. If you don't know me by now, hi, I'm Will Mosley. I'm a parentpreneur. I've I've been parenting for 11 years now. I've been in business, working on $1 million businesses for we've been going at it about 18 years now in our career as a creative director, all that stuff. And I love self-development. If you love self-development and you're here for the vibes, you love that stuff, make sure to hit the sub button down below or on the side. You're probably watching this on TikTok or on Shorts, so probably on that side. But if you're watching on long form, down below. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's get started. I'm going to tell you chapter 1. Let me tell you about my past of how I've been going at it alone and just a lot of the fallacies that most of us probably have. So when I first got into, I think I always wanted to own a business. I think after, or at least be a freelancer. I remember reading freelance books early, like 18, 19, or 20, reading a lot of freelance books. And freelancing is pretty much like owning your own business. So it's always been in my blood to have my own business that I run, that I operate. We've talked a lot about the fallacies of going at it alone and having your own service-based business. I made a whole video about how you should not start a service-based business today. And then I made another video about how if you have to, or if you want to, these are the things that I would do, because I am still currently in a service-based business. I'm also building an audience-based business here. That's a whole nother video. But I started out and I thought to myself, if I can just get these skills to be able to do the work, that is all I need to do. And so I always was coming at it as a one-on-one solo vibes. If I can learn how to design, if I can learn how to develop websites, if I can learn to do all that, I can just level up and just do my thing, and then people will pay me money. And so that is the path that I went. Many people know the story on this channel, but if you're new here, of course, I started out drawing, doing all the things or whatever. We got paintings and whatever all around us. Drawing, painting. Then I went to college and took a graphic design course, fell in love with graphic design. I then soon fell in love with web development. And then I thought to myself that I would be able to just start making money. I was reading books about how to close clients and how to kind of talk to them. And I was young, you know what I mean? I just was young and did not understand a lot of the dynamics of business. But I did end up landing a job at a company called King Bio, my first career job. And that taught me a lot about how to work within the corporation as a creative director, or actually I wasn't a creative director at the time, they deemed me webmaster, graphic designer, because I got hired for a dual role. By the way, level up on the career side if you like in employment, that's always been the way I've had that cross. Because hiring IT and then hiring marketing, like those are two different functions of a business. And so if you can hire the engineering and hire the marketing for the price of, I think it was $16 an hour, go for that. Anyways, so I learned, leveled up, moved on to a company called New Human. I was there for 6-7 years as a creative director, and always in the back of my mind, I was still like, I wanted to get my freelancing off the ground. I always thought to myself, like, working in a company was like a means to an end, and like eventually I want to go at it and make it happen. And so I always had the side business. Originally the business was called, back in the King Bio time, Super Amazing. Shout out if you remember Super Amazing. It was big old blue branding. I almost remember the hex, but anyways. And then we transitioned to StartRight, which we have StartRight today, StartRightLLC.com. And I could never get it going. I could never get it like off the ground. I was making good money. I was happy. I was comfortable. Fam was vibes. But like, there's this itch as an entrepreneur that like, you're like, you want it to work. You're like, I need this to work. And I think that the reason why it didn't work for so long, I mean, many reasons, but one of the main reasons is the inability to know all, like be able to deliver on all the different skills that a business requires. And that is where like a team comes into play. Like you are like, a lot of times you're the talent, and then eventually you upgrade to being the coach, so that you can coach other people within the business to do all these other different things that need to be done. You know, there's so many things, but let's start front to back, right? You got, you need you're pretty much, you need to get leads, okay? Then you need a setter, then you need a closer, then you need someone that's like onboarding, then you need like fulfillment, which could be 2, 3, 4 positions or whatever, or hired out. Like, you need someone to deliver the actual goods, which a lot of times would be you. You need someone to keep like billing, like being able to make sure people pay you, because they'll not pay you. You need customer support. You need like after support for like the stuff that goes wrong, like afterwards, to help them kind of on their way. You need like, there's so many different things that you need to be able to function. And here's where I thought to myself, this was the fallacy that I thought. I said, I'm a small business, I'm very small, and I only need a few clients that pay X amount of money, and that'll be Gucci for the month. So I don't really need all these systems. I don't need all these things. I made a video again about systems too, the fallacy of I'm small and I don't really need systems. I thought to myself, I didn't need all that. I could make this work, and it doesn't take me it doesn't take me that long to do a website. It doesn't take me that long to do a flyer. But all the other operations take me a long time to do, because I'm not skilled at those things, you know? And don't get me wrong, you start to level up and you start to learn things, especially being on the job experience, but like, none of that. And so this reminds me a lot of chess, where I'm going to take a couple pieces here. Let's see. We got bishop, queen, king. Okay, cool. All right, so you're the king, okay? Or queen or whatever. Does it see me? Does it see that? Is it good? Able to focus on that? Whatever. And you can move, like, it's very funny because you only can move like 1 or 2 steps around. And this is actually, it feels really true in business, is that you're just moving one little step around when you're just by yourself. But if you got your team of players, we'll add a couple pawns in here too, you're able to delegate a lot of your tasks to other people. Again, I didn't believe that this was possible, because I'm like, you need a lot of money to hire a lot of people, and like it was a non-option for me. Okay, it wasn't an unknown. It was just a non-option. It was like, that's not possible, because, and that's also another ceiling. We talk about a lot of self-limiting ceilings that we have. So I didn't think I could do any of this. I saw how this worked in a regular business, but I didn't think that I could do this. But anyways, you got yourself the king, and then you got like the horse is in chess is valued at 3 points. Okay, king is like infinite. Like if you kill the king, it's it's done. If you checkmate the king, it's done. So if you go out of business, that's it. The horse is worth 3 points. Bishop is worth, again, 3 points, but it's actually more valuable than the horse. If you have to make a trade between the horse and the bishop, usually you want to keep the bishop. Your pawn is worth, here we go, 1 point, but very important to the game. And then you have your rook, who is worth 5 points. Okay, 5 points. And then your queen is actually worth 9 points. Okay, 9 points. If I can see, focus that, there we go. If you lose some of these pieces, your game starts to go to shit very quickly. Very hard for you to actually navigate and run the whole thing as a king all by yourself. And that's pretty much what I was doing. And that's probably what you're doing, because I've been going at it alone 18 years. That's what I was doing. But very hard to protect yourself as the king when you got all these different threats. The other team, Murphy's Law, has all their pieces ready to just like mess you up as well. Now, this does have a point. In chess, there's what's called openings, the mid game, and the end game. Okay, and a lot of times, if you do not set up your opening well, a lot of times you're going to lose in your mid game and your end game very fast. And I think that is the crux of business. If you set up your opening, your structure, your opening a lot of times is like your defense. It's like how you are able to kind of keep track of like the middle of the board or whatever and all that stuff. And you're kind of developing your pieces. If your opening is terrible, the opponent, Murphy's Law, or clients or whatever, they can capitalize on that. And then you lose the game pretty much almost by default. If you have a strong opening, then you get to the mid game, and you can also be terrible at playing a mid game and still lose. And then eventually you have a really good opening, you start getting good at mid game, and then you get to the end game, and you may not know how to close out stuff or like finish up stuff. So there's 3 different stages that you really can destroy your game. And most people, they mess up their game in the opening. I messed up my game in the opening for 18 years. Please, like, let me save you some years of your life. God, Jesus, let me put these back. So these pieces represent like team members, people that are on your side that are helping defend the castle and take care of work. Different pieces are good for different parts of your opening, mid game, and closing, or opening, mid game, and end game. We'll get to that when we get to the next chapter. But like, the point was that I didn't have anyone really on my side, and a lot of times it can be lonely. It can get lonely. It can feel lonely when you're going at it alone in entrepreneurship. You take on this super risky thing. You don't make that much money. You're working many more hours, and you just feel burnt out. And like, the closest people to you are like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure? Like, you sure? And after so many fails, after you lose so many chess games, like, it's hard for them to be like, believe in you and be like, yeah, you're gonna do this, you got this. But what I realized is that I was initially bad at chess, and then I started learning openings, and got better at chess. And then once I did that, then the timing, I started adding timing to the map, like, 10-minute games or whatever, which forced me to make decisions that I needed to do, which actually increased the amount of games I was playing. Because before I was playing like 1 game every day or 2 games every day, which increased the amount of games that I was playing. So losing at business many times, right? And I still was getting beat. And then I started winning some games and started learning and learning and learning. And then I started to also learn the end game. And I think business is a lot like that. So maybe you're just in the beginning, opening, and you've been losing a lot in your business, and that's okay. But I do think you can win if you can win. And I do think that also the crux of this video, hiring a team, I do think that we can make it happen. Okay. Again, this is just a Will's journey. You do what you want. Will's just journeying on, just doing his thing, vibing out. But I like to share my lessons, like my scars, the things that have just like fucked me up terribly, so that other people don't have to go through those. It's a document of like me just like talking about this. I'll look back and like, oh, I remember when I was at that point. And like, it also feels good to get your thoughts out, your energy out, and express like what you're going through. Because sometimes there's clarity when you actually start talking about things like therapy. Laura says I need to get a therapist, but like the camera here is, I guess you guys are my therapist. Let's move on to chapter 2. What I'm doing now. Okay, this is, if you don't listen to any other part of this video, this is probably the part of the video that you listen to if you are trying to figure out how to not have to go at it alone and also not break your budget. Okay, so what am I doing now? Currently I have, let me tell you, currently I have, I'll just tell you because it's not coming up on my computer right now. Currently I have an executive assistant, we have a lead getter, a setter, we have a customer success person, we have let's see, we have a customer success, we have a social media manager, and then there's a couple more positions that I'm hiring out for, but there's also like another person and this is not specifically business related, but it is related to career. I also have another person that is applying for career jobs on my behalf, like big level career jobs on my behalf on the other side of this. Okay, and so you're like, Will, that sounds nice, but how are you affording that? Because we've been following the channel, we know where you're at, and the truth is that there is a place, there is this place where you can afford an ongoing team that you can hire out. And I'm not talking about like one-off projects, but you can do one-off projects. One-off projects is fine for, like, let's say that you get money from a client and then you know how to leverage out, and you're like, okay, I know how to pay someone else to do that project. That makes sense for the one-offs. But building your team, like an ongoing like roster that's on your side, that helps you with your day-to-day, that buys back your time, that's more of what this is about. So Upwork, okay? I've heard about Upwork for, I don't know, like a couple years now, but I never really gave it any thought. I never really visited it because I thought that Upwork was like the same as Fiverr. I thought like Fiverr, like that's where you can get pretty low cost quality talent to be able to kind of do like these one-off projects. And so I skipped over Upwork because I just thought it was like Google versus Microsoft or whatever, bad example. But like, I just thought they were one and the same, but they're not. Upwork, yes, they allow you to buy project-based one-off things, but their big thing is like this hourly, being able to buy talent for an hourly rate. And if you've listened to the Dan Martell book, okay, he mentions and talks about how, like, whatever it is that you make per hour, you want to, if you can buy talent for a fourth of that, right? So if you're making $20 an hour, if you can buy talent for $5 an hour, you should do that always and forever. Now, of course, the time that you bought back, right, you should spend that making more money, whether that's at your current job or closing sales in your business. That way, you know, you bought that, you're buying back your time by giving a task that you were already doing to somebody else. So that frees up that hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, whatever. And now you can use those 5 hours to then do more higher leverage activities, like just making 5 more hours of pay, which would be $100. So in a sense, like if you were making 20, if you're making $20 an hour, you work 5 more hours, that gives you $100, but you gave a task to somebody and they're getting paid $5 an hour. And so 5 times 5 would be $25. So you still netted $75 in that time that you would have had to just do that task that would have made you no money. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. This is the same for if you're making 20 or 30 or 40, you know, you can buy talent that's a full quarter of what you're making, and they can then do that work. Now, here's what's beautiful about Upwork. Again, I'm new to the platform. This is all new stuff to me, but man, it's been a game changer already. They allow, there's a lot of reasons why this actually works really well. So you go in and you're thinking to yourself, well, I need an assistant, or I need, you know, like I said, a social media manager, or I need someone to help find leads. So you type in the role, the exact role, like lead getter or setter or whatever, and then it'll pop up with like 1,000 different people that are available. And from there, right next to it, it shows like their hourly rate. And this is a lot of the Upwork stuff is like overseas. Okay, so there's a lot of kind of overseas. There's some that are here, but like a lot of it's overseas. And you're able to see like an hourly rate. And then if you think about, okay, how much do I make? You're like, okay, I make 30 an hour. Great. Okay, I can afford, you know, and for me, I personally like, you know, if I can get away with it, like a 6x, like if I can get someone for 6 times lower than whatever I'm making or whatever, like whatever it is, like if I can do that, that's even better than 4. I'm cool with 4, but 6 is better. So there's so much talent on Upwork that's doing it for $5 an hour. Okay, and I don't know what 5 hours an hour translates to the person overseas or whatever. I don't know how, like all that, but what I do know is that they're willing to do a service for whatever amount that they set, and I know that how much I make, and I know that I can afford that service, and it will also take something off my plate. And so I found 5, 6 people in the $5 to $7-ish range that I needed for being able to do operations. Like you got the front end and you got the back end, right? So you have the front end is about people that are there to literally help you generate more revenue, right? You need to have leads. You need to be able to set your calls. You need to be able to close those calls. And then once that happens, right? If my average, you know, ticket is $2,000, $3,000, then all of a sudden that's bought all these hours. How many hours is that bought at $5 an hour? Let's see if we can do the math real quick. So if a ticket is $2,000 and $5 an hour, $10, okay. So $10 an hour would buy us 200 hours. So $5 an hour would buy us 400 more hours. 400 more hours of work by closing one sale. One sale. And you may be like, well, Will, I'm not high ticket. You know, I'm not, you know, selling things for $2,000. you get the point. Whatever it is that you're selling, it might be $500, it might be whatever, but it might be easier for you to close those $500, which will still translate up to the $2,000 or the $3,000 or whatever. So the beauty is that you can hire them for, whatever the amount is. You can also set the increment of how many hours per week that's capped. So it goes in 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So for me, I started out most of my talent at 10 hours, which by the way, like if it's $5 an hour and like 10 hours, it's $50. Like if you think about it, if you make $30 an hour, you can go out and make that in 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like you can make that time up pretty quickly to be able to pay your staff. You're paying your staff, paying your team. And they're working on your behalf. They're going out and trying and doing the work, doing a lot of the stuff that you need to be done regardless. So it's like stuff that you already would do anyways, but they can do it much better because they're skilled at that. That's the thing that they are listed for. I'm a designer, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I'm a business owner. Like, it's just like, I'm good at certain things and I'm terrible at other things. So what's interesting is like, even with you even working that task, you're actually lower leverage than what they are because they do better. They do a great job. Hey buddy, what's up? I'm doing a video. What's up? You good? No. You good? Okay. All right, I'll see you in a minute, okay? All right, love you. One second. Wait. What you doing? Ooh, you're crazy. You can sit down, okay? And so, you're able to just buy back your time so easily. So you can do the increments. You can also say how much you're going to give them, like a raise after 3 months or after 6 months, and just automatically sets it at like 5% or 10% or 20% or however much percent that you set. And then what you do is you use ChatGPT and you write out like what you're needing them to do, right? And ChatGPT will be best to do this. Now, I will say one more hack on this is that the Who Not How book, if you read that book Audible, it'll better help you define like what. Can you tell me? Who is TV play? It'll better help you define. Careful. There we go. It'll better help you define like how to define the role. Because also, I didn't want to also be like micromanaging the, I don't want to like be micromanaging like the talent. I wanted to pretty much be able to just like, okay, you're good at your job, you're great at your job. Like I'm just gonna kind of give you the reins on this. Don't touch that. And go about it. And that's pretty much what I did. I created a Who page, set it up in Notion, and then I created them a Google account after they accepted. And they literally accept like within like a day or less than a day. So it's pretty fast. It's a pretty fast turnaround. And there we go. And then they just like, we hang out and collab and do our thing and work. And like, it feels great to have someone that's just on your team. That's like working on your behalf. You're working with them. Like you're exchanging money, they're exchanging their time. And it frees you up to do other things. And so this has been a huge game changer for like what I've been doing, because now I'm able to focus on like the cash generating revenue activities, which then brings in more money. And then once we do that, then of course we hire out the fulfillment team that's able to kind of keep to the promises and make all that stuff work. And you can level up, level down at any given point. It's just,
These chests are magnetic?
yeah, they're magnetic. Is that cool?
Yeah.
That's really cool. All right, I'm gonna move on to chapter 3. Chapter 3 is just the future, how I see myself like moving with this.
Maybe they're magnetic because they try to walk with magnetic.
Yeah, I think that's right. Sounds right, bud. Oh, not too hard. Not too hard. There you go. Future-wise, like, I see this scaling up pretty quickly. I see there's a lot of other activities that I need to replace in my day-to-day, and it's crazy because you have a team that's there to make you money, and then once you make more money,
These are made out of grass.
they're made out of metal.
I thought they're made out of grass.
Yeah, they kind of are shiny like glass though. They're made out of metal.
I hear a sound.
Yeah. So we're at 30 minutes here, but pretty much that's just kind of where we see ourselves going. Like I now have broken through the ceiling of like I don't make enough to be able to afford a team. You do. Whether you're making $20 an hour, you know, whatever it is you're making, you probably have enough to actually hire a team on Upwork. So I challenge that you. I'm getting further and further off the screen. I challenge you to like just go over there and like check it out because I was blown away. All right, take care. All right,
Hey,
bye.
Lucky.
Bye. Bye.